Breakout season. Breakout season. We're back.
We're back. Welcome to episode 3.
Episode 3. The camera is rolling. The lights are hot. That's all I got.
All right.
I was going to try to do like a Chick Hearn like riff.
I was impressed if you could pull it off on the fly.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, it's all good.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about once again.
As always.
Shall we start with the obvious here? Lakers versus Bucks.
Yes,
Two
indeed.
best teams in the league. Record-wise faced off Thursday night.
Bucks got the better of us.
Bucks got the better of us.
Yes, indeed.
What are
After
your
we had
thoughts?
talked a lot of shit about how there's no real Eastern Conference championship
That's
contenders.
true. Although in episode 2, we did say that they have won.
Yeah.
At the time of episode 2, I believe they won 14 consecutive games.
Yeah, we walked it back a little bit.
Yeah,
episode
well,
2.
look, we reserve the right to adjust our opinion based on new information, and if they're killing it,
Yeah.
we got to give them some props.
Yeah, and definitely props to them. I give them props. Hats off. I am not, completely convinced of their dominance still.
Right.
I'm not going to put that much weight on one regular season game.
Right.
Having said that, it was a very impressive performance. I believe the final score was like a 6 or 7 point spread. It wasn't even that close.
Right.
We were not really in most of that game. So they had a pretty dominant performance from front to back. And yeah, I just ultimately don't think that you can win a championship with Chris Middleton as your second best player. I just don't see it. Unless Giannis can shoot like he did in that game consistently. That is going to be the difference maker for the Bucks. If Giannis can shoot at that clip or something close to that, NBA, watch out because y'all are in trouble.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The only criticism anyone can say about Giannis is that he can't shoot, right? But he's improved his three-point shot tremendously this season. If you look at his percentages last year, he shot 26% from three-point land. This year, he's up to 34%. In the month of December, he's up to 45%, and he hit a career-high 5 3-pointers against us, which ultimately gave him the edge to win the game.
Yeah.
So that's initially why I thought last year, Giannis was a little bit too young. He's a little bit too raw. He needs to work on his actual game, be more of a complete player, skills-wise, and not just solely rely on his athletic ability. And I think this year he's shown tremendous improvement. And I would almost go as far to say that he kind of looked like he took the throne from LeBron. I'm not saying he has, but that was a statement game. Both teams their intensity was really high. Obviously, the Bucks got the better of us. But there was this one play where Giannis pulls up for his 5th three-pointer, makes it on the way back, signals to the crowd, yo, crown me. I am the new king. It was not Kawhi. It's no longer LeBron. It's my time.
Yeah, that was a badass moment for sure. I think ultimately a little premature. Let's see how you can shoot over the course of the entire season. Let's not just get caught up in 1 month of hot shooting.
Well, I'm not. I mean, if you look, he's taken, I think, 41 threes so far as of that game. I remember Reggie Miller throwing out the stat where he's shooting 45% from the field for the month of December, but it's not a small sample size. 41 is a good amount.
Definitely, but over the course of the season, that's still a small sample size. So we'll see if he can sustain it, but he's definitely making strides, and man, if he can do that on a regular basis, he's basically the evolved Pokemon version of Kevin Durant at that point. He's like,
Ooh, I wouldn't say that.
I will if he hits shots like that, if he suddenly becomes a 3-point threat.
No, I think Kevin Durant is way more polished player. I think he's more analogous to LeBron from every aspect. Coming up in the Eastern Conference, taking some early beatings early in his career and kind of developing a jump shot. That was the one knock against LeBron early in his career, right?
Yeah, I'm not really talking about his path as much as just the type of player that he is from a physical standpoint. He has a way more Kevin Durant-esque physique. He's long.
He's longer?
Yeah, he's long. He's got crazy freakishly long arms.
I don't know. I think
more athletic than Durant, probably stronger. If he just gets that jumper, that's the. I mean, look, you can compare him to LeBron too. He's up in that crazy stratosphere with those guys.
I think from athletic freaks, from what we've seen in our era of watching basketball, it's been Shaq, LeBron, and now Giannis. I don't think we can ever say that Kevin Durant was an athletic freak. Obviously, he's long, and to your point, that is true that their length is a good comparison. But the reason why I compare him more to LeBron is because of how much of a freak of nature athlete both those players are.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think he's like a sneaky mix of both, and that's why I think of him more as like the evolved version of Durant, if he can make that shot consistently. But I think it's worth pointing out in this particular regular season game that Anthony Davis was a bit hampered by an ankle injury that he sustained 2 games previous that caused him to miss the Indiana game a couple nights before the Bucks game. And it appeared as though he re-aggravated his rib injury at a certain point during the Bucks game. So he's a little bit banged up. He still managed to put up an Anthony Davis type stat line.
But did he? I actually have the stats right here.
I think he didn't shoot very well, but he ended up getting his numbers. And also,
that's important.
No, 100%. But the other thing is, LeBron apparently sustained a thoracic sprain injury, which I had to Google what that was.
Yeah, to all our viewers, can you please explain that to us? Because I don't understand
the Jurassic strain? What is
thoracic?
This? I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like a period of time where dinosaurs walked the earth. But apparently it refers to your torso area to some degree. In any case, apparently he sustained this injury during the Indiana game, played through it in the Bucks game, and now he's questionable to doubtful to play the Nuggets tomorrow.
Which I'm concerned with because I want to see that matchup versus
the Clippers. Yeah,
and
of course.
If we're not at full strength, it's going to take a lot away from that game. You know what I mean?
No doubt. But so the Lakers had a lot of things working against them. I will also point out that the Bucks were without Eric Bledsoe, who's down with an injury right now and will miss several weeks. Yep. I believe it's a similar injury to what Avery Bradley sustained. So that'll give you a sense of how long they can expect to be without him. So, and we also didn't have Kuzma for the game. So both teams were a little bit banged up. So I think overall it was still like a pretty even matchup. And they just got the better of us. But
so let's get to it specifically because to me this and the first game versus the Clippers were the 2 most important games of the year so far. I know we've had big wins against the Blazers in Portland, against the Nuggets in Denver, against Utah in Utah. But the 2 biggest games of the year, we've fallen short.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so
a bit
what
concerning.
happened? I mean, that is a little concerning,
well,
right?
I think so first of all, I think whenever a team plays the Lakers, they bring their A game.
Yeah, but we should have brought our A game versus the Bucks because they were on a recent, I think, 18-game winning streak. It got snapped versus Dallas, but nonetheless, they were tied for the best record in the league. And this game, although early on in the season, determined who would have the best record in the league.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think what it ultimately came down to for this particular game is they got great performances out of their bench. They basically maximized all of the potential of all of their role players, and they hit the 3-point shot at an amazing clip from Giannis on down. And when you have those 2 factors, it's going to be very difficult to win on the road. Having said that, it was an 8-point game going into the 4th quarter. We were very much within striking distance at that time. We put ourselves in a position, even though the first half was atrocious, especially that second quarter for the Lakers. But they put themselves in a position to at least be within striking distance for the last 12 minutes, and it just ended up falling short. The Bucks just continued their hot shooting, and Giannis hit, I think, 2 or 3 more threes in that 4th quarter.
So I've been very complimentary of LeBron thus far in the season. I gave him an A+ to start the season. I think he's played way beyond my expectations, especially if you take in consideration this is his 17th NBA season. But in the 2 biggest games, as I've mentioned, the other best player has gotten the better of him.
Yeah.
And at some point, he needs to step up to the plate. If we want to win the championship, and I made this point earlier in a previous episode, I felt that, LeBron has it back. He kind of is reclaiming his throne as the best player in the league. But against every big-time matchup, he appears to come short. What's going on?
I don't know, man. I think that's been a knock on him throughout his career. If you remember the first couple times. Absolutely. Do you remember the first finals appearance that he made with the Heat, where for a big portion of the series, he just kind of stood in the corner? And
yeah, but he overcame that. A lot of players, have to overcome those early struggles.
This is an issue that has reared its head multiple times throughout his career. That's all I'm getting at. And it's something that we're seeing again here so far. Having said that, it's a very small sample size. Like you said, we've had basically two monumental confrontations so far with,
and we've lost
with potential finals and playoff matchups. And yeah, we've lost both. So it's a bit concerning, but ultimately I don't put too much weight into any individual regular season game. I think when it comes down to a 7-game series, and we've harped on this before, we have most likely the best duo in basketball, and I think that's what's going to win out over the course of a 7-game series, assuming that they're healthy.
I mean, look, if George Hill can come up with 20 clutch playoff points like he did in the last game, we'll tip our hats to him.
Exactly. I don't expect that.
Wesley Matthews pulled up from like a 30-foot three-point attempt.
And he was driving on fools.
He did
left
this
and
crazy
right.
Euro step. And I'm like, how are all these scrubs? Relatively speaking, right? How are they just getting the better of us on every opportunity? Both LeBron and Anthony Davis shot below 45% from the field. LeBron, 42%, had 4 turnovers, including 2 costly ones late in the fourth quarter.
Man, that's just not going to happen. Both of those things that you just described are abnormal.
Well, look, the 2 biggest matchups, LeBron and Anthony Davis have come up short. And look, we've had tremendous success throughout the season, and this is the only kind of criticism I can give the Lakers so far this season is in our 2 most crucial games, our 2 stars have come up short.
Yeah.
And they have looked inferior to the stars of the opposing team.
Yeah. It's concerning, but not to the point where I'm thinking the sky is falling.
I'm not pushing the panic button by any means, but at some point we need to have a statement win.
Yeah. Well, look, it's only December. We got a lot of season left.
That's why I want this Christmas game.
This Christmas Day game is going to be big. We're going to be at home. The one thing to factor into this Bucks loss, it was a road loss. The game against the Clippers, even though I always like to say every game against the Clippers is a home game for the Lakers, it was on quote unquote their floor.
Yeah, but we can't.
Whatever.
The Bucks have the benefit of home court. I don't think you could say the Clippers did game 1.
But we're gonna have that good Staples Center juju. It's gonna say Lakers on the court. It's gonna be 95% Lakers fans in there.
Right.
This is the game that they know is the biggest statement so far because of that initial first game of the season.
I hope LeBron
loss.
recovers from whatever this injury
The Jurassic sprain, bro.
How did it even happen?
It happened at some point during the Indiana game. They have not specified a moment as of a couple hours ago. There wasn't a specific play that they mentioned, but that might come out here in any moment now. But
if LeBron sits out against Denver, there's a good chance. I'm hoping obviously we win the game, but there's a chance we might lose it. It'd be 3 consecutive losses, and then we go up against the Clippers. If we don't know if we'll have LeBron, that's concerning because we said in the beginning of the season, November we had the easiest schedule in the NBA. December we had the most difficult.
Yep.
And at some point, maybe our record, maybe our record reflected better than what we really are because of our easy schedule to start, which is a little concern of mine.
Yeah, but for the first half of December, which was the toughest schedule or the toughest month of the year for us, they responded greatly and came up with a winning record. I think all we have to do is just kind of weather this storm, and once we get past December, the schedule becomes significantly easier again. And so far, like if we can escape December with a few more wins, I'll be very pleased with it. And the good news is we still have a 3-game lead on the second seed in the West.
I kind of want the best record in the league. I don't know if this is it's been so long since we were good, so long since we even had a chance to say that we were the best team in the league record-wise.
Yeah.
That I just wanted it really bad, and it's unfortunate it didn't swing our way.
Yeah, it'd be great if we did. It's not something that I'm extremely concerned with. I would definitely like to have the best record in the West, if possible. And we're putting ourselves in a good position to do that, at least up until this point. So, I don't know. I think once we get through December, if we can salvage the last, 10 days of December, I'll be very pleased, and assuming we can, stay relatively healthy here. And the good news is we're getting Kuzma back for the game tomorrow.
Speaking of Kuzma, I like to throw a question your way. Now, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I forgot the source, and it could be completely unreliable, but it's just an interesting idea and question. Would you ever consider trading Kuzma prior to the trade deadline? We talked about how he has some struggles with the Lakers, and I think personally he's at the point in his career where he's still trying to get his, and he might not buy into being like a third or fourth or fifth fiddle, whatever the case may be, coming off the bench, just playing his role. He wants to put up numbers, which I understand. You know what I mean? Like, when you first start your career, we saw this with Kobe. It wasn't good enough. He had to be the alpha dog. I think Kuzma has a little bit of that in him, where he's trying to establish himself as like a potential all-star player in this league. Would you consider trading him?
Yes, I would absolutely consider trading him. I think the problem is his trade value is probably at an all-time low at this moment. So that will limit the options that the Lakers have.
Let me be more specific. Would you trade him for Iguodala if that was on the table? Because Iggy, he hasn't played with Memphis. Memphis is a young team. They're trying to build something. They got Ja who's killing it.
That's tough.
You know what I mean? He's obviously probably...
Iguodala's 35, brother.
Yeah, I know. But if we're going all in...
That hasn't played basketball on an NBA floor in how many months?
Also, he's a finals MVP. Let's not forget, he could contribute more to, I think, this playoff run than Kuzma can.
Yeah, I feel you. That's definitely something that the Lakers would have to look at if they're trying to go all in for this season, which I think they should, because next year LeBron's going to be another year older. And as we're seeing with Tom Brady, like we talked about before the podcast, at some point, Father Time is going to come a-knocking. We don't know when that is.
Yep, that's true.
My man Father Time is undefeated. And that's going to happen. So every year that we don't win the championship, it's rolling the dice on whether LeBron can continue his historic and unprecedented run as, being the best player in the league in year 17, potentially 18. Who knows, right? Yep. So if they're trying to go all in on this season, that might be worth pulling the trigger on.
But also what I'm concerned about is I don't want to have a situation like we had last year where we had trade rumors floating around that affected the team chemistry.
Well, in this case, I don't think it's going to be as detrimental as the rumors were last year, because it involved the entire core.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair enough.
Literally everyone was on the block, minus LeBron. This year, it's there might be one or two players that have their names floating around. It's really going to boil down to Kuzma. He, by far, is the best trading chip that we have. And again, unfortunately, his value at this time is at an all-time low.
But what does Memphis have to lose?
No, yeah, definitely. Like, if I'm Memphis, I do that in a second. Absolutely. Right. The upside on Kuzma.
What I think. That's why I believe it's a win-win for both teams at this point.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not ready to give up on Kuzma because I think he does have that talent, and we were gung-ho about keeping at least one of the good young core players that we had in the Anthony Davis trade. We kept Kuzma, in my belief, so we can be flexible to pursue a third max free agent during the offseason, which we thought would be Kawhi. But, it hasn't panned out as planned to start the season. I don't want to give up on the guy because I think he still can bounce back from his kind of slow start. He's battled some injuries, which you've kind of pointed out in the past, and he hasn't had the opportunities that, say, Ingram has.
Right. So ultimately, to answer your question, it's definitely something that I consider. And personally, this is kind of funny, but I would defer to LeBron. I'd be like, yo, Bron, what do you think? Should we do this? And I would go with Bron's plan. Bron's plan. I'll just defer to him. I'll be like, Bron, Le GM, what do you think? Should we do this? If he thinks that it'll put us over the top, I respect his basketball genius enough to know that if he thinks Iguodala is going to be the X factor for a playoff run, I say we pull that trigger. Even though it's short-sighted and Kuzma could go on to be a star, I still think he has star potential in this league. I really do. I know a lot of people are kind of off the Kuzma bandwagon and saying that, Ingram is far and away the better player and has the higher ceiling. But I still think Kuzma has the opportunity to be a great player in this league, and so it's definitely a risk. But if it puts us, ultimately, I think if it puts us in a better position to win a championship this year, you have to do it because we have to maximize these LeBron years.
Agreed.
We have to put all our chips in the table to at least squeeze out one championship during this LeBron year or this LeBron contract.
And I'm not saying it's a straight up trade, Iggy, for Kuz, because I don't think the contracts will match up. So there has to be some other component to that trade to make it work. Maybe we can get some other value, maybe a draft pick or whatever in return.
Yeah.
To kind of maybe play to the future more.
Yeah. So
then kind of going all in 100% type of thing.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if, that's a good point though. We need to have an idea of what Kuz's trade value is to kind of gauge what we could even get for him before we affect team chemistry by having all these trade rumors floating around.
Right. But having said that, if that swap were to occur, I think Iguodala would fit like a glove on this roster.
I agree.
I think he would just add to the chemistry.
I agree.
So
talk about a player that knows his role.
Exactly.
Who's been a former All-Star. He's not looking for more personal accolades. He's looking to probably win more championships. He knows how to do that. He has the experience. He's come up big. And keep in mind, he was guarding LeBron James for most of those finals.
That's how he won his finals MVP, by slowing down LeBron.
Exactly.
To the best of his ability.
He did what Kawhi did in 2014 to win his MVP. All you have to do is guard LeBron, apparently, to win an NBA Finals MVP. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, you could throw him off his game even 5%. That's saying something.
So let's talk about the MVP race.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a fun one this year. I think you can make a case for 3 to 4 players this year.
I think you can make a case for 2 at this point. Now, that's obviously subject to change given how the rest of the season goes. But I think there's 2 players that are clearly head and shoulders above everybody else at this point.
Let's hear it.
It's James Harden, who's averaging nearly 40 points per game. Come on. Look, I think James Harden gets a lot of favorable treatment. I think he initiates a lot of contact and gets the benefit of getting a foul call for that. But he's averaging 40 points a game. That's incredibly impressive. It's 7 points more than the second leading scorer in the NBA, who's my other MVP candidate, which is Giannis. I think, as I mentioned before, I think Giannis has shown improvements in his game. He's come back hungry. And he's looking to prove something. He has a chip on his shoulder. The reason why, and I think you're going to say LeBron James and Anthony Davis should be considered as MVP candidates, is because usually when you have 2 elite, I'm talking about top 5, top 10 players on one team, it hinders one player's chances for winning MVP. We saw that with Stephen Durant. We said, they were so loaded that it's not fair to give it to Durant because he had a good season on the best player on the best team in the league. So and secondly, I think statistically they haven't been as dominant as those 2 other guys.
So I think there's 2 questions at hand here. And number one is, who do we think will ultimately win the MVP? And who do we think should win? And those are not necessarily the same person. So based on the criteria that you just laid out, it's definitely going to be either Giannis or Harden. I think the way that they typically award this particular accolade is you have to be the best player on the best team. Right now, that's Giannis. They have the best record in the league. He's the front runner in this point as far as who probably will win it. Like if the season ended today,
Agreed.
Giannis would be the MVP.
Agreed.
He's the best player on the best team, and that's how they choose it. I don't necessarily like that interpretation of
that's
what
how
most. That's how the people that actually have the votes, the media members, that's how they interpret it. I don't necessarily agree with that interpretation of what MVP actually means. What makes more sense to me is how bad would your team be if you removed this particular player? Like, who makes the most difference on a team? And when you consider that, you have to consider LeBron James as an MVP candidate because he has the best plus. Have you seen his plus minus? Even next to Anthony Davis, it's like night and day. LeBron is far and away, like if you put any weight at all into the plus minus stat, LeBron is definitely more important to the Lakers' success than even Anthony Davis at this point.
Let me tell you who's on the Milwaukee Bucks roster who currently has the best record in the league. Other than, so let's say Giannis is done for the season, right? Their roster would include Chris Middleton, who's a borderline all-star. He's a good player. Brooke Lopez, Wesley Matthews, Sterling Brown, George Hill, Eric Bledsoe, Ilyasova, Robin Lopez, Pat Connaughton, Kyle Korver, Thanasis Antetokounmpo.
Does that sound like a championship roster to y'all? Because it just doesn't to me.
I'm saying to your argument, though, you said that if you remove one of those, come on, without Giannis, that team is going nowhere.
Yeah, you can definitely make that point, too. I'm just saying LeBron should be considered in that conversation. But I think...
And he's come up small in some of the two biggest matchups. So I can't put him there yet. I'm sorry.
I think Giannis is the front runner at this point for...
Should he be, though?
What do you mean? Over Harden?
James Harden is averaging 40.
So going back to my point, like... You can make a strong case for Harden. You can make a strong case for Giannis. I think you could make a strong case for LeBron. And yeah, my fourth person would be, and it's a distant fourth, it would be Anthony Davis. I think those are the top four contenders for MVP. And I think it's ultimately just going to boil down to who ends up having the best record at the end of the season. Pick your poison, you know?
So let me give you some stats here. I'm using the laptop a lot today.
It's good. No, it's good. We gotta start incorporating the internet. You got the fastest internet in the world, apparently.
So let me tell you some stats here. These are the all-time leading points per game average in history of the NBA. Okay, number one, Wilt Chamberlain. We all know the 50 point per game in 1962.
So basically, it was people like you and I that were probably guarding him at that point.
Okay, all right. So just take that into consideration, right?
Still impressive, but
number two, Wilt Chamberlain, once again.
Oh, wow, what a surprise.
45. He slipped off in 1963 by 5 points. And, obviously, like I said, or like Luke said, I should say, the NBA is not what it is today. It was far less competitive. There was a lot less teams. There's no 3 seconds rule. Wilt Chamberlain was towering over all his opponents. Number 3, James Harden at 38.5 points per game.
For this season?
Obviously, the season's not over, but at this rate, it would be the third highest scoring average in NBA history. Number 4, Wilt Chamberlain, once again, 38. Number 5, Wilt Chamberlain, once again, at 38. Okay, number 6. Then we have Michael Jordan. Jordan
is only number 6.
Michael Jordan is 6, and James Harden is amongst Wilt Chamberlain, whose stats are somewhat inflated due to the era that he played in.
But
right?
This is a small sample size, my man. We're only about 30 games into the season.
And then, so I'm agreed. But we're saying at this point, who should be considered the front runner for the MVP? And we only have the games played this season.
So let's say that he ends the season averaging that, right? Let's say he averages 38 points after we've played 82 games.
If they're top 3,
let's say that they're the third seed. Lakers are the first seed, and the Bucks have the best record in the NBA.
I think he should win it. I think it's crazy what he's doing.
So you agree with me that it's not necessarily always the best player on the best team?
I think there's a little gray area. For example, when Kobe averaged 35 points per game in 2006 and Nash won MVP, they gave it to Nash because of what you said. But we were only the 7th seed. If the Rockets can be a top 3 seed in the West, I think that's good enough for the people who vote for the MVP to give him the edge.
And you think he would deserve it at that point?
Dude, if he's averaging 40, come on.
I agree. I agree.
The dude's crazy because he's I mean, it's unreal. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
You would be crazy not to give it to him at that point. You really would.
Because I get Giannis is big, like 31, 12, and I think he's averaging 4 or something assists. Or
he's
whatever.
a freak. He lives up to his nickname.
Yeah,
he's a freak,
but
no doubt.
James Harden's averaging 7 more points than the second leading scorer in the NBA at this point in the NBA season. It is outrageous.
I've never seen that.
It's crazy.
It's very impressive, and I'm no huge James Harden fan, but I have to tip my hat to the man.
It's wild,
balling on another level right now.
It's wild.
So yeah, I agree. I think that you can make a super strong case for him at the end of the season, but I think ultimately, if history is any indication, they will award it to whoever is the best player on the best team. So
yeah, but I think there's been gray area with that. Like when we saw Russell Westbrook, who was the first player ever to put up a triple double for an NBA season, the Oklahoma City Thunder were, I think, a lower seed, 7 seed, something along those lines, and they gave it to him because it was just such a monstrous statistical season. At some point, you got to kind of ignore the common, voting habits.
I hope so, because honestly, like if he does that, I think he deserves it, man.
Look, we're the Houston Rockets are my least favorite team in the NBA.
That's crazy. That's more than the Clippers, but
I would have them on the same level. I'm saying 1A, whatever, 1A, 1B. They're about the same level. They're both my least favorite team in the NBA. So for me to say that James Harden deserves MVP, we got to give it to him. We got to give it to him.
Something for sure.
Yeah.
I get it. I think you can't go wrong giving him the MVP if he can sustain this outrageous level of play. So the question becomes, do you think he will sustain it?
I think he will, yeah. I don't know if it'll be 39 or 40, but I think it's going to be better than his previous high, which was, let's see here, 36. I think he's going to be above 36, which is gnarly.
36, son? That's crazy.
Last year.
Kobe the best he ever did was 35,
right?
Which was the 81. Oh, so here's something I want to talk about. Harden had a chance to get 80 in a game this year. He had 60 through 3 quarters, and they rested him because it was a blowout.
Yeah.
He could have got 80 this year.
That's very similar to what happened with Kobe, if you remember, when he had 62 points through 3 quarters versus the Mavs.
Yes.
And then they rested him because it was a blowout.
Right, and it would be, it was good form. They used proper judgment.
But then there was speculation that hey, if you left him in the game, would he have an opportunity at 80? And then lo and behold, maybe a month or two later, he gets the 81.
So do you see James Harden getting 80 points in his career at some point?
I do.
I think he is the only player in existence, and I know Devin Booker randomly came kind of close at one point. I think James Harden is the only player alive that has the chance to do that. And yes. I think he has a really good shot this year. I think if it's going to happen, this is probably the year where it happens. Agreed. Because again, he's on that same kind of Kobe trajectory where, one game kind of early in the season, you got 60 in 3 quarters, and, he has months left to just have an outrageous game. And, if it happens to be a relatively close game, then I think he could do it.
No, I think he has a really strong shot at it. Like I said, it mirrors kind of that crazy season that Kobe had, where he's had close calls, and then eventually he had the outburst. I think he's going to do it. Yeah.
The thing that I think gives him an edge, he's statistically a better 3-point shooter than Kobe, right? Doesn't he shoot at a higher clip?
Yeah, he is a really good 3-point shooter. I think he's shooting about 36% from the field, from 3-point range, which is really good because he takes a lot of shots, and they're highly contested. Usually it's off the dribble with his patent step back, right?
36 for his career.
Right.
36 for this season.
It's impressive.
From the 3, yeah.
Yes.
So he's right on pace.
Yes.
Whereas, let's see what Kobe was. Got the laptops on deck. Dude, your internet is really fast. This is very impressive.
Thank you.
Kobe's was 32 for his career. 32.9, so 33.
So
slightly worse from 3.
I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, but while sorry, the beer is caught up to you, boy.
That's all right.
But I think we should discuss, and I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, who is a better offensive player, Kobe in 06 or James Harden in this year for this season?
Damn.
Do
you want me to answer it while you're in the bathroom, or should I just?
I mean, I'm gonna listen to it later. So if you want to kind of keep the film.
All right, I'm gonna just do my inner monologue for the audience here, and then maybe reiterate when you get back. But so damn, that's such a tough question. I think the thing that separates James Harden from Kobe Bryant and any other player that's ever lived is the fact that Harden has found a way to hack the officiating in the NBA. Meaning, he understands how the referees interpret certain plays and certain potential foul calls. And he goes in there and just takes advantage of that. Initiates a lot of contact, and it gets him to the free throw line. To his credit, in the past month or two, his free throw numbers per game are actually down from what they normally are. But if you look at his career, he's shot way more free throws than just about anybody else because of his ability to, again, exploit the rule interpretations of what is and is not a foul on a player, especially when you're shooting a jump shot. So I give him the edge over Kobe in that element because he's able to essentially manipulate the rules to his advantage. And he's a great free throw shooter. I'll check the stats again, but I'm pretty sure he's better from the free throw line than even Kobe was for his career. I believe he's like a 90% free throw shooter or thereabouts or mid-80s. So did you hear anything I was saying, or should I?
No, not really.
All right, I'll try to give you the cliff notes. I was giving Harden props. You're going to be surprised.
Oh, wow. I was about to say that you were going to give the benefit to Kobe because Harden gets the benefit of all these foul calls.
So I am talking about the benefit that he gets, but I'm giving him credit for finding out and understanding how to exploit the interpretation of the rules that the refs are enforcing. No player has ever been able to exploit that like James Harden, and so for that I tip my hat.
You know what really impresses me about James Harden is his handles. Man, he has some Kyrie-esque handles, which is, I don't think we've ever seen a player of that size. Now, granted, he's not like a 7-footer or anything like that, but he's not a point guard. Well, technically, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. He's not like a small guard. He's like 6'5", whatever. And he put Paul George, who's an elite perimeter defender, on skates with the most savage dribble handle that I've seen. I think this season it was crazy, and it just crossed him up so hard. And I think that's his ability to just get to the rim and either get a foul shot or just do a step back three. That's his game. It's either he's going to penetrate, take you off the dribble, and he's going to get the foul because he's going to initiate contact, or he's going to finish in the paint, or he's going to do or the threat of that is going to allow him to create enough space for a step back 3-pointer, which he's consistently been able to make. So, I'm very impressed with his offensive game.
I'm very impressed. I'm not ready to call him a better player than Kobe Bryant.
I said offensive player.
Yeah. I'm not ready to select him over Kobe. Because, exactly. Offensively, there's an argument to be made. Defensively, I think Kobe was a far superior player.
No, there's no argument defensively, especially in Kobe's prime. He
guarded the best player on the other team every single night without fail. He took pride in that, and he did a great job doing it.
Speaking of which, this kind of annoys me with the Clippers. Kawhi is heralded as the best perimeter defender, LeBron lockdown artist that the NBA history has ever seen or whatever. He's won Defensive Player of the Year, and he had an impressive defensive performance versus Giannis last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. But every time there's a big matchup, whether it be against Giannis or whether it be against Harden, he's not the guy guarding Giannis.
You know what
that
Harden is, right? That's that in-game load management.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well,
probably.
I mean that's an argument to Kawhi's favor actually, because if Kawhi's saying, hey, you can get yours in this regular season meaningless game, then fine. And then when the playoffs come, I'm going to shut your shit down. That's kind of...
Well, he did it last year on Giannis.
All right, well... Well, maybe that's what it is, but...
But I think it removes him from any kind of MVP debate,
Oh, totally. And to me, this year, I think going into this season, I think Kawhi was crowned the best player in the league because, he had Kevin Durant with injury. LeBron didn't make the playoffs. He's coming off an injury. He kind of laid down the torch. Kawhi, went through, Embiid, Giannis, beat another dynasty to win his second NBA Finals MVP. So everyone, for the most part, it wasn't unanimous by any stretch of the imagination, but still people thought that Kawhi was the best player in the league. I think from what we've seen this season, he ain't better than Giannis. He ain't better than Harden. And you can make an argument that LeBron and Anthony Davis are better than him. Yeah,
agreed. And I think a lot of it has to do with this load management strategy that they're implementing at this time. And we'll see if it pays off for him. I know he did it last year. And what did he miss last year with the...
He missed 25% of the games. So I think he missed about 20 games, yeah.
Right. So it worked out for them last year. But... Even having said that, he was banged up by the time they got to the finals. He was definitely hampered by some lingering injuries at that time. So he might just be kind of an injury-prone, fragile type player, unfortunately. And we'll see if the strategy pays off for them come playoff time. I don't know. If it does, then they look like geniuses. And if they don't, then it looks really bad for the entire concept of load management. And it's just going to have to, it's going to boil down to what happens.
Yeah, I think ultimately the reason why load management exists, because for the most part, the NBA regular season is relatively meaningless. It is what it is. More than half the NBA teams make the playoffs, okay? You still, if you're in the playoffs, you have an opportunity to win the championship.
It's just too long.
Yeah, that's why I think Adam Silver has considered mixing it up a little bit and having some tournaments, some play-in tournaments to get you into the playoffs or whatever, some other tournaments. I don't know exactly how that would look, but nonetheless, I think it's something that they should address because I think it is an issue. Say if you're a fan, right, and you want to go see, what if like Kawhi, there's no way, I'd be so surprised if Kawhi load managed the game against the Lakers Christmas Day, but what if that was a game it happened to be a load management game?
There would be so much flack caught by that organization.
For
if
real,
they tried
like,
to do
come
that
on,
for
at
one
a
of those
certain
marquee
point,
games.
How expensive are those tickets?
Oh God, I don't even want to know.
Right, and I think a lot of people at home are excited to watch that game. So if LeBron's hurt or Kawhi is load managing, it kind of takes away from that matchup.
Absolutely. So I think the solution is very simple: just shorten the season.
But there's no way economically why would they do that economically? That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's going to have to come down to how much money are they losing or how much flack are they catching for this load management.
Or they can adjust the regular season to be more meaningful somehow.
I think I will take the side of the players on this particular issue, and I think the wear and tear and travel that's required to get through a regular season of NBA basketball is a very taxing thing, especially when you consider all of the back-to-backs that are now currently scheduled, the 3 games and 4 nights that are currently scheduled. I think the NBA would benefit from reducing the season for a number of reasons, primarily from a player health standpoint. I think you would see fewer injuries, especially like wear and tear type injuries. You would reduce the need or desire for teams to do this load management strategy. So the star players are playing in more matchups, which you can then have more nationally televised games. So that's what I think it would be the best solution. I'm not suggesting a significant reduction in games because obviously economically I know it would be an issue. But, even if we
15?
brought it down to 72 games instead of 82, maybe 10 less. Some more days off in there.
So let me play devil's advocate, not necessarily because I disagree with what you just said, because I think there is some data showing that, teams that embrace the load management philosophy reaps those rewards, right? But if I were to play a devil's advocate, a lot of players from like 90s and 80s and, the players of even the early 2000s would say, hey, man, we played every single game. We managed to get through it. Karl Malone played nearly 20 seasons, if not 20 seasons in the NBA, and I think he never missed less than 70 games a season, except for
until he came to the Lakers.
Until he came to the Lakers, right? But still, what I'm trying to say is it's been done before, and the players have managed to manage it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
why is it that these players can't? And especially if you take in consideration, all the players are taking like first class private jets. They're staying at nice hotels. They're not like rough riding it on the road here. They're not like pitching a tent.
Yeah, but you can argue the level of competition is stiffer now. Players are more athletic, bigger, stronger, faster. There's more wear and tear going up against these guys every single night.
So
that might
that
be a
would
factor.
be your argument against that.
I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you bring up that point. I think, maybe they had it slightly easier than players have it today in terms of the level of competition overall.
When I was kind of, I think when we were watching the Lakers early on in 2000 with Kobe and Shaq, Phil Jackson's mentality was, for the most part, that we would try to limit the minutes, not necessarily limit the games played, but I thought that was the prevalent philosophy with conserving the players' energy and preserving their health.
Right, and I love that. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think they're trying to do that with LeBron and AD this year.
Giannis is only averaging 31 minutes a game, which is, I was shocked.
They're blowing fools out. He's sitting a lot of fourth quarters.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well,
he's sitting a lot of fourth quarters, which is what I hoped would happen for the Lakers. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I hoped would happen for the Lakers this year. And it's happened certain games. There's been certain games where AD and LeBron have been able to sit out fourth quarters, and that's just a dream come true for me because it's that in-game load management where you're not really pissing anyone off by doing it, and it's just you're getting those easy W's. And so hopefully we get some more of those this year. But I've been very impressed with Vogel's ability to stagger LeBron and AD in the lineup. So basically 99% of the time we have at least one of those two players out on the court at any given time. But he staggers them in such a way that he's keeping their minutes in the mid-30s this year. LeBron, I believe, is averaging 36 minutes a game, and AD is very similar to that. I think that's a good money zone for those guys, and obviously if we can reduce that by the end of the year, all the better.
Right.
But if they're not going to shorten the season, then I think coaches should spend more time trying to play with lineups to get their star players rests throughout the game and limit those minutes, and that would make a big difference. But I think the ultimate solution is a combination of both of those things. I think they should shorten the seasons and put more of an emphasis on the rotational situations and resting their players a bit longer, if they can pull it off.
Man, I gotta say, I'm hyped for this Christmas game, Clippers versus Lakers. That's the one I circled. That opening night game was so intense. I actually watched part of the Clippers Houston game the other night, and I was shocked to see how flat the energy was in that arena. It was completely. I mean, think about it. It's like two elite Western Conference powerhouses playing on the Clippers' home court. You would think some energy. Clippers were doing really well throughout that game. If you look at the comparison versus Milwaukee Lakers, where Milwaukee fans were definitely totally into the game, right? The Clipper fans did not show up, and it was.
Because they don't exist.
But it was shocking.
They don't exist.
It was so quiet. It was as if the Clippers were playing the Minnesota Timberwolves or something along those lines, and it was not really a competitive game, and it wasn't like an important matchup. And let's not forget that the Clippers and the Rockets have this rivalry kind of going between them, where Westbrook has said, "Oh, Pat Beverly is not really a good defender. He is just kind of a pest or whatever."
Love it.
I was just surprised to see that. And
I wasn't.
And especially considering opening night, how intense that building was. I can't imagine Christmas Day.
Because it was 75% Laker fans, dog.
Yeah.
The Clippers are an afterthought even to their own fan base. There are no diehard Clippers fans that exist. They are Lakers haters primarily and Clippers fans secondarily.
They interviewed Billy Crystal, who's been
the only one carrying the torch.
Why do you think he chose the Clippers?
Why does anyone choose the Clippers? I don't understand it. I've said since the beginning of time.
Because he ain't a big a star as Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, exactly. He ain't box office like Jack.
He's trying to get a little shine. He's trying to be the Jack Nicholson of the Clippers.
That's a great potential theory for why he's a Clippers fan. But to me, it's always and I know in recent years the Clippers have had more success than the Lakers. There's no denying that. Lakers have been, a cellar dweller for
whatever
for seasons.
What have they gone from that?
But
Zero
still,
Western Conference Finals appearances. So get out of here.
Precisely. And I've always made the comparison, and I think to this day it still holds true. It's like if you're a Los Angeles native, right? You have the unique opportunity of having your choice of NBA franchise to root for. On the one hand, you have the Lakers. On the other hand, you have the Clippers. It's as if someone is giving you the keys to 2 free cars that you get to choose from. And on one hand, you have the Lakers, the most prestigious and one of the most successful sports franchises in the history of the world that you can root for. No problem. It's like giving the keys to a Rolls Royce to someone, right?
Or a Porsche.
Or a Porsche, sir. Pick your dream car, right? That's basically what it is. On the other hand, you have the Clippers, the afterthought of Los Angeles, who for 20 plus years were run by an aloof, racist owner that didn't even care about the success or failure of his team, only cared about the bottom line, that were the laughingstock of the NBA for decades upon decades, who in recent years have seen a little bit more success. But again, as you said, 0 conference finals.
And I'd like to play devil's advocate because for the most, I agree basically with what you just said. But now they're owned by Ballmer, who is not Sterling, who's fucking Microsoft. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're the established corporation in how things operate and how the franchise is run versus the mom and pop Lakers, which is Jeannie Buss and Jim Buss, and then Linda Rambis, of course.
Of course, the secret genius behind it all,
and
the Emperor Palpatine of the Lakers, if you will.
I think during their brunches in Manhattan Beach
with the mimosas and the puppies.
Right. I think a lot of important topics and issues are addressed. And we can't overlook that because I think a lot of times when we go to brunch, we think, oh, it's just a fun time to kind of hang out with friends.
But what you don't realize is you can write that off if you discuss your business.
And that's how major corporations are run, right?
Brunches.
I believe if you look at, Disney, Apple, all their kind of decision making is made through brunch.
Yes. Yeah, brunch is the most important meal of the day. No, but I think despite the Clippers, recent success in the past several years, and success I use very loosely because, like you said, they haven't even made.
But forward looking, they're better run. I'm gonna be real. They are better run. They have deeper pockets, and they have committed themselves to being successful.
So the only legit reason you could have for being a Clippers fan then is if you are too young to remember the Lakers being good, or if you just moved to LA and you're just kind of like on the fence.
Which is reason why, Laker fans are always saying, "Oh, there's no way that Clipper fans are going to eat into our market share." And I said early on in one of our podcasts that the only potential for that happening is the up and coming new generation of NBA fans and LA natives siding with the Clippers over the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it happening. The Lakers are always going to be that box office draw because of the name, because of the history. I think it still plays a role, even if it's 10 years removed from the last championship. It's the organization of Kobe Bryant, of Magic Johnson, of Shaquille O'Neal primarily. And I think that will always hold more weight. And I always think of the Clippers as just kind of the afterthought. And I think what you described in this last game with the Houston Rockets exemplifies that perfectly. Even their own fans are just kind of lukewarm on the whole situation. They're probably only there because, number one, the tickets are cheaper. Even now, even with Paul George and Kawhi, the tickets are significantly cheaper than Lakers tickets.
Even last year or 2 years ago when we didn't even have LeBron and we were trash and Clippers were a playoff team, the Laker tickets were significantly more expensive.
Even let's go before that when the Lakers weren't even making the playoffs.
That's what
when
I'm
the
saying.
Clippers were. Our friend Andrew Reimer purchased several packages of Clippers playoff tickets in an attempt to flip them, right? He bought them for like face value or thereabouts and was, hoping the prices would rise and he could flip them when the games happened. He couldn't give those tickets away.
Yep.
He couldn't give his playoff Clippers tickets away. He literally took the L and couldn't sell them.
Yep.
It's like
so
the point is, like, whether they're better run than the Lakers or not, I'd probably agree that they are, and the outlook going forward might be more favorable to the Clippers.
But that's my concern.
They still have a long way to go.
No, that's my
winning
concern,
the hearts and
though,
minds.
because if you look at, not to bring in like stocks into play here, but if you analyze a company, you always look at forward. You always evaluate it based on their forward earnings potential, right? Okay, congratulations, you had a successful pass. What are you going to do for me in the future? What is your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
How are you going to grow the business, right? And I see a clearer direction from the Clippers than the Lakers. At this point, I think we're having a very successful season this year, but let's not forget that LeBron is about to turn 35.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it comes down to how long can the Lakers' history and heritage of greatness sustain them versus how much success can the Clippers have in the short term, and at what point do those factors start to shift?
Right. I'm saying there is potential for it to shift,
but
if the Clippers are successful.
But let's say that the Lakers win a championship during these LeBron years and the Clippers don't. I think that buys us like another 5 to 10 years of superiority, regardless of what the Clippers do.
But what if Clippers win 2 with Kawhi and Paul George and we win 0?
Then we might be a little bit in trouble. Now, I don't think that any Lakers fans, at least none that I know or hang out with or associate with, will switch sides at any time.
No, it's not about that. It's about the younger.
Right, exactly. But they're
NBA
definitely going to pick up the younger generation and maybe the average fan that's kind of just in the middle, and the more passive fan that doesn't follow it might be more likely to go towards the Clippers. But at the end of the day, I think the Lakers' historic success is still the biggest factor at play.
Man, but that's annoying to me because it's like that shouldn't be our selling point. Oh, look at what we've done in the past.
Agreed. At some point we're gonna have to do it again.
Exactly. I mean, at some point we got to say, hey, look, this is what we have planned out for this season, next season.
Yeah.
This is why you need to sign with us. And I think that's what kind of hindered us during free agency when we struck out with Dwight, when we struck out with Carmelo and LaMarcus Aldridge.
But this is a totally different regime, and as time goes on, I look at Rob Pelinka as more and more of a G. And I think a lot of the recent sketchy situations that we found ourselves in was due in large part to Magic Johnson's loudmouth and strange influence in the front office. Now we have a clear direction.
Magic recently said that he attributes part of the Lakers' success this season to his work when he was running the franchise.
Outrageously false. Outrageously false. I
mean, it's so who's to know really, but
let's be real. I think LeBron James was coming to the Los Angeles Lakers regardless of who the GM was, regardless if Magic went there and met him at his house, or if it was Genie or whoever. I really don't give Magic too much credit for getting LeBron. And what else has he done? He drafted Lonzo, which is looking more and more like a bust every single day.
Right.
He went on national television a week before free agency opened in the most important stretch of time in recent Lakers history and bashed all of his former coworkers and bosses. Bro, he, in his post-playing career, overall has been more of a detriment to the Lakers' success than a benefit. And that is probably why I will always rank Kobe ahead of him in terms of greatest Laker of all time.
Wow. Well, that's a separate discussion and debate. But I mean, it's just difficult to say who was making the certain call, who decided to draft Lonzo, because I believe Magic said on First Take when he was interviewed that he was more inclined to draft De'Aaron Fox, who's appears to be early on a better player between the two. And he felt like he was somewhat inhibited by other people's opinions within the organizations to make decisions that he wanted.
I think he was inhibited by not being in the office every day. That was the biggest knock. He showed up like once a month. Everybody didn't even know like that he was still part of the team at that point.
Well, according to reports, right? So we don't know.
Yeah, we'll never know, but from if you just read the tea leaves, it seems like he was the. I mean, look at the Lakers' mess of a front office while he was there versus the Lakers front office now. You don't even hear from Rob Pelinka.
That's a good point, though,
because he's behind the scenes doing his job, staying out of the spotlight. He doesn't even talk to the media. Mm-hmm. You hear nothing, and that's the way it should be.
But Rob Pelinka has actually a bad reputation within the NBA community, actually.
Because he's a shark, and I think that worked to his advantage as an agent, but maybe now to his detriment as a GM. But, I mean, he still got the deal done with the Pelicans after Magic left. He still got it done, and we still kept one of our young assets. He didn't have to give up everything, which is what they were initially demanding when Magic was in charge of the negotiations. Mm-hmm. So everything that he's done so far since he's been kind of the lone wolf out there after Magic left has been positive for the Lakers. The way that they salvaged free agency after Kawhi decided to go with the Clippers is extremely impressive. More impressive than I even thought, because we were still worried at the beginning of the season that this was somewhat of a Frankenstein roster. And look how perfectly it has worked out so far up until the last couple games.
Yeah,
we are like every piece fits like an absolute glove, basically. So I think he deserves a lot of credit, and it's obviously still a small sample size, but he's off to a fantastic start as the lone wolf in the Lakers front office at this point, and I tip my hat to him. And yeah, I don't know. I tend to blame Magic more for the dysfunction that we experienced in the previous couple of years.
And I would like to attribute some of our success this season to Linda, in addition to what you just eloquently stated out.
Of course. I mean, she's probably telling Rob what to do on a daily basis.
Right, of course.
She is the Palpatine to Rob's Darth Vader.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt.
Probably.
Yes.
Who knows? But, I mean, we haven't heard anything from them either. They've been silent, and I like that. That's the thing. Like, Magic just drew too much unnecessary media attention to the position and added to the level of scrutiny and just kind of magnified the pluses and minuses that he provided, and I don't think we need that added circus.
Right. I mean, look, I think ultimately, after Magic left, what happened is that we traded for Anthony Davis successfully, and then we were kind of held out in free agency until we were waiting for Kawhi to make his decisions, and then recovered. Unlike I can't believe how well we recovered given those circumstances,
right,
where we basically got every other key free agent available.
Yeah.
And we salvaged that to the best of any team could ever have done. So I will give Rob credit for that.
Yeah.
And with that, episode 3
is in the books.
We
got to go to a birthday dinner.
All right.
So we out.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all. One love. Done deal.